While we're getting ready to start today's meeting, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. You can let us know your name, where you're coming from, what your organization is. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. We're still going to let people trickle in here for another minute or so. While we're waiting to get started, please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat. Good morning, everyone who's still coming into the call. A very warm welcome this morning. Thanks for joining and spending your Monday morning with us. We're going to get started in just a moment. This is our spring check-in meeting. In the meantime, just take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat. All right, so we're going to get started. Again, thanks for joining us. If you all wouldn't mind to just keep your mics muted today. And I'm going to now hand it over to Jordy to offer us a welcoming message. Lauren's going to be advancing the slide deck, so when you start to present, you can just say next slide. All right, Jordy, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Eve. Good morning. My name's Jordy Elkins. I'm the director at Highstead in Reading, Connecticut, and I serve on the steering committee. I'm not sure if everyone saw this picture. It was kind of circulating on Facebook. But I got really excited when I saw it. This may be the only known specimen of Castilleja coccinea in New England. And because of the efforts of Heather Lillingren and the Northwest Land Conservancy and others, this plant was feared to be extirpated from New England, but may now actually be on the rebound. And I know this network isn't really focused on threatened and rare species, but it just kind of stirred up in me the excitement of, walking into the wild and seeing a plant that either you have never seen before or, something, like an orchid or, some rare thing that's just there, or maybe you've walked through the woods and come across like a big patch of, ephemeral wildflowers. That just sort of stirs up in me, this sense of awe and wonder. Um, and it just, in a way, sort of gives me a sense of peace. And I think, this is how the world really should be. Everything is kind of right in the world today. And so when I reflect on the network, this is really what we're all about. It's a group of people who are just passionate about native plants and who are trying to make the world a better place, but who care enough to actually do something about it. And that's what gets me so energized about this group. Um, I realize being on Zoom is kind of the antithesis of why we all got into, botany and horticulture in the first place. Um, but I think there's a lot happening in the network, and so I encourage you, despite what a beautiful day it is outside, to hang in here and hear about some of the updates. I think you'll find them informative and really hopefully motivating. In this field, for every success story, there are also a whole bunch of discouragements that we've all experienced. But I think in the network, that's the whole strength of it is that, we can share our successes and we can encourage each other's when things aren't going so well. But ultimately, we can do more together than we could on our own. So I'm really glad you're here today. Thank you for participating in the network and joining this meeting. And I hope you really find today kind of energizing and motivating. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jordy. All right, well, we're going to get started. My name is Eve Allen, and I'm with the Ecological Health Network, and we're the organization that helps to coordinate this Northeast Seed Network. And we really see ourselves as a regional alliance of seed hubs and partnerships. Next slide, please. So today's agenda, we're going to start with some network updates and announcements. We're going to move into a few grant opportunities that just are arising in our region. Then we're going to hand it over to the working groups to share their updates about what they've been up to for the past, I don't know, 6 months to a year. And then we'll hand it over to our hub and partnership leaders to share updates from West Virginia all the way up to Maine. And then we'll finish with some upcoming events, in-person upcoming events, and then finally a Q&A before signing off today. Next slide. So the first exciting update is that we're finally launching a listserv. We're going to use the Group IO platform, and we hope that this will be able to enhance communication across the whole network, but we'll also be able to set up a listserv if a partnership or hub would like one as well, just to encourage communications within a hub or partnership. We may be able to extend this as well to our working groups and our committees. So if anyone is interested in joining, please email us and we'll sign you up. Or we can also walk you through and troubleshoot any issues if you'd like to create one for your partnership or hub. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to also share a little bit of some of our news from the first quarter of 2026 and some of our impact. We hosted 3 virtual webinars. Thank you very much to all of our presenters that came together to present on topics that included engaging volunteers in seed production to how to increase seed. We also had a great webinar earlier this month about our wild seed collecting protocols, and we had approximately 190 participants from our region and elsewhere attend those webinars. We also approved our operational guidelines, and we're going to share a little bit more about that later on. And we secured some funding to support 9 in-person trainings, educational events, and regional gatherings spanning from West Virginia to Maine. And we also secured funding to partner with a branding consultant to help us design a new logo for the Northeast Seed Network and comprehensive brand guidelines. So now I'm going to hand it over to Sephra to tell you a little bit more about that.
Thanks, Eve. Hi, everybody. We are so excited. Cynthia Oswald is actually on the call today. We interviewed a few artists. They're all remarkable, but she really just wowed us with her style and her whole brand kit. So hopefully, over these past years, you all have been very impressed with the Canva logo that I made for the Northeast Seed Network. But I think it's time that we do the full branding language logo suite so that we can have really coherent visual language across all of our communications as we keep growing. So, I get to play the network camp counselor here for a second. So, Eve has, if you go to the next slide, um, as we work with Cynthia, we want to get your input on what should our flagship species be. We really like those clean botanical line logo drawings. We want it to be very simple and be able to go be branded across printed material, t-shirts, hats, who knows what happens. So, but we also want to make sure that we're incorporating all of our favorite species from all the different trophic layers here. So Eve will put, I guess, in the chat, Eve. Oh, it's right there. So everybody, and you can also, if you don't see the species you want, put it in the chat.
And you can also pick more than one.
Michael Butts, Cephalanthus occidentalis. I bet that's an awesome plant. Okay, so while you're all doing that, the next thing is, I think this is really fun. The next slide. Oh, that one is showing up. So now, as we start to think of what our charismatic species will be, we can start to look at that as like a color palette that we would use in newsletters and websites and so forth. And for sake of time and sanity, we'll just show you this one. So if everyone, you can see it says palette 4, lichen green, palette 5, the old wall palette. If you just want to take a second and just choose your favorite, put which palette you like in the chat. We would love to know. Okay, we're seeing some fives, some fours. I think this is so fun, by the way, to look at these different species and be able to see the chromatic tones of it. Okay, great. So, we are so excited to be working with Cynthia. We will be updating you all, and we just wanted to have this as a fun introduction art piece here to the rest of the call. So, thanks for participating. And Eve, back to you.
Thanks, Sephra. Thanks, everyone. All right, now we're going to share some funding opportunities. Next slide, please. I'm going to pass it over to Annabelle from New York State's Department of Environmental Conservation to tell you all about a very exciting new grant program.
Yay, yeah. Thanks, Eve. Thanks for having me. I admittedly voted in the flagship species poll. I'm sorry. You can disqualify my vote, but my dad was a syrup maker, so I did silver maple. Anyway, I'm Annabelle Gregg. I'm the 25 Million Trees Initiative Coordinator at DEC Division of Lands and Forests. as Eve mentioned, I'm super excited. Oh, and look, the poll results. I also picked Aster. Aster was great. Um, we have a super exciting one-time only grant opportunity to share with you guys, funded by the USDA Advancing Markets for Producers, kind of broad nationwide grant. But in New York State, we have $46 million available for this program. And there's three different opportunities that fall under that kind of $46 million umbrella, two of which I thought would be of particular interest to the network here. The first is the 25 Million Trees Nursery Discount Program, which is a kind of enrollment program to reimburse nursery growers that sign up and offer discounts on the trees that they sell to retail customers. Those have to be native trees. There can't be nativars or cultivars. So again, pretty pertinent to this group. But yeah, just a good way to get high quality trees out to the public and also help cover the costs for the producers of that. And then the one that I'm most excited about is the Growing Reforestation Opportunities tract. We fondly nickname it GROW. And that is to incentivize the expansion of native tree and seed production capacity across all kind of elements of the reforestation supply chain. So from seed collection to seed storage to propagation to growing the trees and selling them. So there's a lot of different like pit stops along the way there that I'm sure plenty of you could fit into. And then I'll also just mention it in case I know lots of people have lots of interests. We also have the Tree Market Boost and Revitalization Program, fondly called Timber, which is to incentivize the expansion of forest product commodities. And that's anything from like just regular old timber, but to also like innovative products in the agroforestry kind of sector, and also maple syrup. You heard me mention that. Um, so as I said, this is kind of pertinent to many individuals or groups. The eligible applicants are, as you can see, pretty broad. Individuals, governments, public agencies, nonprofit and for-profit businesses, also individuals, and also startups. So pretty broad. The only main requirement is that you have an FSA Farm ID number. If you're a startup, you even just have to say, I've had a conversation with FSA, and once I'm established, they said I can get an FSA Farm ID. And I'll put in the chat if you don't have one or if you're not sure how to start that process. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble finding the chat. You can talk to them and they will pretty easily get your farm records inputted, and they're all aware um, of this exciting grant program, so they should be on board to help get you set up so you can apply. And if you head to the next slide, uh, there's some details about like timeline, but we're going to be accepting applications for this grant program until August, and then we hope to award around October, which means that folks only have about a year once their contracts are executed to get everything done. So big scale, but rapid time frame is what you should kind of have in your mind. And you can check out the RFA or the request for applications, the webinar that we held 2 weeks ago now, I think, which gets into a lot more detail than I am right now. And other like important details like case studies, if you're like, what would be a good project? Frequently asked questions, and we update those documents every week. So we get that it's a new program. We want to make sure everyone's informed. I'll put our webpage in the chat too. So you can check that out. But if you have direct questions, you can email that email there, dlfgrants@dec.ny.gov. Or we also, again, because of the nature of this very brand new, once in a generation kind of program, we're holding bi-weekly office hours. So if you have like a question you want to talk out with me or another staff member, our next one is on June 3rd. So feel free to register for that as well. But yeah, just throwing a bunch of information all pretty quickly, but definitely more information online, and happy to answer questions offline as well. But yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting to hear that this is happening in New York State. All right, so next slide, please. Also, some exciting new programs in Massachusetts. There's a community biodiversity grants program, also a pretty quick turnaround. I think Matt, would you like to say anything about Native Plant Trust?
Yeah, all I can say at the moment is that we're planning on submitting, probably as part of the regional effort I will mention later in the meeting today. And so I guess if anyone's thinking about submitting for a Massachusetts-based programs, it'd be great to connect and just chat.
Thanks, Matt. And I'll put in the chat the website where you can learn more about this grant program. All right, so with that, we're going to move into some of our working group updates. So the first working group to update us all is the steering committee. And I'm actually going to hand it right back over to Matt to tell us about the operational guidelines that we approved. I think it was April 7th that the steering committee approved that. Next slide, please.
Yeah, so I know that everyone probably keeps a copy of the network charter close at hand, and when they got the network charter, their first thought after finishing it was probably, I just want more. And so the operational guidelines are the more. This is really the detailed information on how the network leadership, financing, structure, etc., works. And I guess where is this available? Is it available now, Eve?
It's not available publicly now. If anybody's interested in seeing it, we can share it. We're just working on finalizing two more sections, and then I think we also need to see if we'd share it publicly or just within our member base.
Yeah, great. And so when you do see it, I think a couple highlights I would point out. Is the section on the funding model, and then specifically section 3 really is relevant for members of the network. So it covers regional hubs and partnerships. It covers the steering committee, advisory committee, working groups, the role of the coordinator, et cetera. And so a lot of good information in there, and I think it's a great resource that will be a living document that gets updated regularly as things evolve.
Thanks. Next slide. So our steering committee also has been working on a 2026 work plan and really trying to identify what our main goals and priorities are. And so I just wanted to share what we're focusing on for this year, which is really to support the development and the capacity building of the regional partnerships and hubs, primarily through peer learning or peer-to-peer learning, coordination support, offering more shared tools, resources, and helping to facilitate knowledge about best practices across the network. And then within that, just going a little bit further, we really want to expand knowledge sharing opportunities as well through webinars, through workshops, and through in-person gatherings. I'd love to invite anyone else on the steering committee of the Northeast Seed Network if there's anything else you'd like to share about our goals or priorities. All right, well, you can also use the chat if you want. Next slide, please. So some other work that the steering committee has been engaged in the past few months, Ed Toth, who's not able to be here today, has worked with his board of the Mid-Atlantic Regional Seed Bank to put together a white paper called Growing Resilience Together that proposes the idea of developing a regional compact. So this would be an interstate native plant regional compact for the Northeast and for the Mid-Atlantic. It's still in its very, very early days. We're just starting to discuss this idea. However, it could be really helpful for creating a coordinated system for seed collection, banking, and certification. It could help to basically pool resources, financial resources to help support a lot of the work that we're doing across the network. And there's many great successful regional compact models that we're looking at as far as precedent examples that we could draw inspiration from. And so the Northeast Seed Network Steering Committee, which Ed sits on, we are having conversations about how to push this idea forward. I'm going to put the link to the white paper in the chat if anyone is interested in reading that. It's like a great concept paper that talks more about this, but just an idea that we're really thinking about pursuing because it could help secure funding for our efforts here in this region, and it would reduce our reliance on federal intervention as one approach. Next slide, please. However, that being said, we are also working right now to promote a really exciting bill that is going to be reintroduced to the Congress. It's the American Seed and Restoration Center Establishment Act. Senator Hirono from Hawaii is leading efforts to reintroduce this legislation, and this would really be a game changer. It could provide up to $100 million annually for about 5 years to support native seed initiatives across the country. I'm the Northeast Seed Network Steering Committee member who's engaged in a national coalition that's working to build awareness and especially bipartisan support for this bill. So we've been working to reach out to Republican senators and ask for their co-sponsorship of this bill and to also help in drafting the legislation for this bill. So we're hoping that this can be reintroduced with bipartisan support this year and hopefully approved maybe early next year. It's very exciting. It also provides a rare federal opportunity for supporting our work. Next slide, please. And so that actually also takes us into another update about an exciting thing that we're working on this year that the Restorative Landscape Coalition is helping to advance, which is a regional seed strategy. The Restorative Landscape Coalition is our working group made up of botanic gardens, arboreta, seed banks, and other affiliated organizations. And the idea of advancing a regional seed strategy for the Northeast came to me when I had a great conversation with Kay Havens. I'm sure everybody knows Kay Havens from the Chicago Botanic Garden. A few years ago, when we were in discussion about the American Restoration Seed Bank Establishment Act, because, next slide, please, developing a regional or multi-state seed strategy could really help position our efforts in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic to receive federal funding if that act was established. However, beyond that, there's a lot of other great reasons for developing a seed strategy for our region. Next slide, please. It would really help to create a unified regional framework for much of the work that's already underway and to help expand the supply and use of diverse source identified native seeds. So capturing all of the great work and really highlighting the precedents across our region. It would also help to identify pathways to strengthen collaboration and coordination, not only across state lines, but also ecoregional boundaries. And again, it would really position our efforts for increased national recognition and funding. Next slide, please. And so there are many seed strategies that exist, and we are drawing inspiration from them. The first being the National Seed Strategy, which was published in 2015. Since then, there's been a few state strategies in Nevada, California, Oregon. And there's also, of course, been strategies developed in other countries, such as in Australia at a national level and in Southern Ontario. But in the US especially, there's never been a multi-state or regional seed strategy, so it would very much be a first of its kind. Next slide, please. So actually, we can pass this slide. I'm going to just hand it over to Elon now, who's helping to lead some of this work, especially around developing our goal one. So Elon, I'm going to hand it to you.
Oh, thanks so much, Eve. I really appreciate the opportunity to get to work on this and all the people we collaborate with. So Eve's really helped set the stage of why the strategy is so important for the region. And I was going to walk you through some of the goals we've put together as this team of the Restorative Landscape Coalition, which again, as Eve had told us, is a network of folks that are in botanic gardens, arboreta. We do have some grower participants. We also have some folks at universities. And we've been talking about developing a strategy, and it's been wonderful to have such a good baseline of existing work out there. And as Eve pointed out, there isn't really a regional version yet. And so that does bring its challenges. And so, locally, what are folks doing? And then how to scale that up to regions, and how do we cross the state lines and the differences that we all have, especially with the different ecoregions across the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. However, I'll tell you quickly about what we framed out as the top goals we want to put into the strategy. Eve's prior slide, she didn't show us, but it talks about there's typically 4 to 6 goals in these strategies, and we've come up with 5. And what you'll see is they kind of weave back and forth between each other, and at the end, they also work to help strengthen the network itself. So I'm going to tell you mostly about goal 1 today. That's the sub-goal I'm authoring with a team. So we'll talk about that in a little bit more depth, but I'll give you this overview. Goal 1, we really want to increase availability of native seed and plant materials. Okay, that sounds like a lot of what the Northeast Seed Network is working towards. So trying to write out on paper, how does that look? How do we help each other deal with the different issues that arise in the different segments of that type of work? Goal 2 is very much related to the national strategy. And there they have advancing research and applied learning. So what's unique, I think, about our regional approach, it's different from the national approach. I think the national approach, people tend to read it as more of a scientific research assessments, like what questions do we need to ask? What do the scientists need to figure out? But we're really interested in our region as well, thinking more about the applied side. And what are the questions that producers will have? How do we make the process of creating this material more accessible to people? So we're really interested in identifying needs, understanding different folks who operate in these supply chains, and the research that's going to inform them. So I would say we're trying to take an academic and an applied approach to those research questions. Goal 3, we want to talk about strengthening our regional partnerships and resources. So Eve's talked about the network of networks that we have inside the Northeast Seed Network. And so how do we really strengthen and learn from each other? How do we leverage each other's resources across the entire region? Goal 4, we talk about collaborative conservation seed banking. So Jordy talked about this very briefly in his section he presented this morning. So we don't think a lot about rare plants in the Northeast Seed Network strategy. That's not what it's targeted to. Yet these questions always come up. And so we do want to be able to speak to those priority sensitive species. How do we restore them? How do we conserve them? Especially because although we are focused on collecting more common species, we're in habitats, and these habitats may contain sensitive species. So how do we think about working on those things together? And then goal 5 goes back to the network. It's called strengthening the capacity of the Northeast Seed Network. So really helping to make the regional seed strategy reinforce the network, really formalize some of this leadership frameworks and capacity. So that group is led, I think, by folks already on the strategic planning committee of the Northeast Seed Network. So it's highly integrated and ready to work together. Next slide, please. So I told you I was going to tell you just about the goal I'm responsible for. And so there's this team of folks who are participating, and we've been meeting for a few years now. This is just this year, I think in February, we met and decided through conversational development what the seed strategy could be and should be. So that's how we got those goals. And that was at Bartram's Garden, I think in February in 2026. And up until now, we've been split off in separate groups, working on each goal and trying to develop that language to fit together into a cohesive strategy. So I've been leading this goal one effort, and we have 3 sub goals we've come up with inside goal one. And so at the top, I put the goal one. Again, I'd already read this to you. It's to ensure this ecologically appropriate native seed and plant material. Okay, I feel like we all understand that part. Is reliably available in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. So that's what makes this so unique in the country is the regional approach using the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic regions. And we want to use it for restoration, habitat stewardship. And what also is unique in our region is we're really interested as well in the cultivated landscape use. So that would be akin to like ecological horticulture type of uses. And we don't see many strategies talk about that. Yet, we know in our region we have high impacts from human development and large populations. So we think it's really important that we can address those issues in our strategy. So within this goal one, like let's have native plant and seed material available in our region for these uses. How do we make that happen? We think about that through seed collection approaches. And there we're really focused on how do we gather seed from populations and sustain the population and have high quality material that we collect. And I think we'll be able to utilize a lot of work already going on in the network, a lot of work that's already been produced from the Seeds of Success program from the BLM, but trying to expand that, thinking about the high fragmentation we have in the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic and high development pressure. And on top of that, we also have high private land ownership, which is unique in our region compared to when the national strategy was written, that was really focused on federal landholders, federal properties, and there's a lot of access that they have, we just don't have here in this region. And then the second sub-goal here, we want to talk about the production, the processing, and the storage of that material we gather. So how do we strategically expand and support that? How do we create maybe cascading network of networks inside there, people buying from each other, people producing with each other, people knowing they have ways to store, ways to get their material out to marketplace. And then sub-goal 1.3, talking about users and the suppliers, try to connect and coordinate those two groups. And so what are the barriers to that work now? How can we integrate these communities so that we start speaking to each other more often and more normally and more naturally and have those links installed. So that's an overview of goal one. It's really fun to get to work with a bunch of people. I'm going to read you a few names of the folks that are kind of co-authoring this goal one with me. You might know some of them, so reach out and give your ideas. Charlotte Lorick, Ryan Clough, Leah Johnson, myself, Ellen Lake, Alan, Fran Chismar. All right. Thanks, Eve. I'll let you take it back.
Thank you so much, Elon. Yes, and if anybody has ideas or questions about the regional seed strategy, please get in touch. We will be sharing our next newsletter probably sometime in June. We'll have more information then as well, and we want to definitely engage more of the members of the Northeast Seed Network in the final reviews of that strategy and make sure it's a very inclusive process. So we will be in touch with more details. All right, we're going to now hand it over to the Standards and Protocols Committee to share a very exciting update about some recent work. I'm going to give it over to Jordy now.
Great, thanks, Eve. Yeah, the Standards and Protocol Committee has been pretty busy and met quite regularly since we most recently, since the last time we met. Would you slide, please? So the thing that really sort of drives our work is this idea that shared standards and protocols are essential for building a functional, trustworthy seed supply system. And as the network moves towards this idea of having seed exchanges, it's really important to have some consistent documentation and shared understanding about what standards were applied when seed was collected and how it was increased, what protocols were used. Because the network is so large and it's grassroots and diffuse, we can't necessarily impose a standard. So it's not like we're trying to sort of lay down the law. But we do want to be able to have a benchmark that everybody can aspire to and that we can use to sort of communicate with each other about seed when we share it and, what standards were used and, you know, did they meet this benchmark or not? Where did they, where didn't they? And having this transparency in this way to talk about it's really important. Next slide, please. So having a shared set of protocols gives us a common place to start. The seed hubs don't need to reinvent the wheel when they decide they want to undertake collection or seed increase. There are guidelines that exist that can be used and adopted and implemented. And so, a particular hub or group might tweak them to adjust their own purposes, but by and large, there's already a significant degree of alignment and a starting place for the work to move forward. Next slide, please. So what we've been doing is identifying some of the critical needs across the network. We've prioritized supporting of consistent, ethical, and effective seed collection. I think that's really important. We've been working for about 18 months. The Land Trust Alliance gave us a grant to help support some of this work. And we've been able to engage all sorts of different hubs and even tribal groups in the work, either in drafting the documents or we shared them widely for review. So we really got a lot of engagement, and I thank everyone that participated in that. One of the central principles that is infused in these documents is the idea that we really want, would you change the slide, please? This idea that we really want wild collection to be justified. The whole point of bringing native seed into cultivation is to take pressure off of wild populations. So the less we have to do that, the better. And so one of the guiding principles is to only collect in the wild when we have to, and to ensure that the collections that are done well, that they're planned, and that the wild populations are not being exploited. Next slide, please. So from the work that we've done, we've produced two documents that are just coming out. One is the Northeast Seed Network Wild Seed Collecting Protocol. And the second is, and that one is really just sort of a resource and template and information about how to go about doing wild seed collecting. The second one is this key messages and protocols for land trusts. And it's really targeted at land managers, land trusts, anybody who owns property with wild seed on it, to really give them guidance on how to manage that well, how to work with seed collectors that protects those populations to make sure that they're not exploited. Great. So the first of those documents I mentioned, the wild collecting protocols, there are 4 or 5 different parts of it. One is there's this kind of tree, this decision tree to help walk through some of the things to think about as you embark on a wild collecting program. And then there are resources that are in it. There's a landowner permission template. There's a guideline for how to go about creating accession numbers so that we can have accessions that we can share between institutions that don't end up having duplicated numbers. So there's a proposed way of going about that. And then also templates for data collection information, what information we're recording doing the seed collection. But then also information and guidelines about how to determine how much seed to collect and how frequently it can be collected. And unfortunately, there aren't cut and dry answers that, you can protect, you can collect 10% every 5 years or whatever. It's just not that cut and dry. And so we've tried to bring a lot of that information together in one place so that uh, organizations and collectors can really think about and understand all that's out there and develop policies that are well suited to the work they're doing. Great. Next slide, please. Um,
No, you got to go back a couple. There you go.
yeah. Yeah, one more. I'm done with this one. Great. And oh, interesting. I don't have this slide in my version of it. But I guess yeah, I guess you want to take it from here, Heather?
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
So the document that was created for land trusts or land managers was really exciting to be a part of. I, when I moved up to Connecticut, I started to work with land trusts and kind of cold called them essentially to say, hey, I would love to be able to do some seed collection on your preserves. I'm working with farmers to do seed increase, and this was a really new concept to these land trusts. And I've developed relationships with them over the past few years, but to bring this to the wider network, it was really important for us to kind of understand what the language would be around bringing this type of program to different organizations. And I feel like a lot of land trusts have, their main purpose for so long, and they've done such a good job is just as protecting land. How do we just, keep things wild and protected? And they've done a lot of work with invasive removal and doing that type of work, but then the next step is actually managing that land. And how can they do that with a wild seed collection program, and also helping to increase the availability of native seed in the region? And this document really kind of does an overview of that. Next slide, please. So we talk about different ways throughout this document. We put a lot of work into coming up with that language that land trust can use to present to their boards, to really have this be a partnership that is serving their mission and really supporting all the work that they're already doing. So there was the first section is really about that, and then the second section is more developing your protocols and collection plans, and a lot of that work is similar to the wild collection document for the network as well. It's just kind of bringing it together in this document. Next slide. And we took the framework of the Seeds of Success program, but really adapted it to a Northeast context. And that was important to show kind of that there is, scientific rigor behind these types of programs. But also we're doing it's at a different scale than the national seed collection program. So really kind of adapting it for that Northeast context was really important to understand how to be collecting in the smaller populations that are here throughout the Northeast. Next slide. And in the appendix of this document, there's actually a sample wild seed collection plan that might be used by land trust and a wild collector to be signed an agreement So we put that together to kind of show like the type of agreements that can be used between land managers and collectors. Next slide. And basically I think the core message of this whole document and why the language was so important was because we really want landowners to realize the really important role that they can play in this greater network, and that this isn't just about people coming in and taking resources from them. It's actually the complete opposite, and how these partnerships can really strengthen the restoration work and conservation work of the land trust, and how it's just such a necessary partnership that we need to move forward in this type of work. Next slide. And our next step, kind of in, following these documents is to, we've started to reach out to different network members that we know are doing seed collection and have been doing seed collection in the region, to start to compile information about what species are in storage, what species are available out there to potentially start new seed increase projects and whatnot. Been having a really transparent view of everyone's germplasm that they have in storage is important to be able to do this work, because as Jordy said, we should only be doing wild seed collection where it's absolutely necessary. And if people already have stuff in storage and banked, we should be able to understand that to move this work forward. So we are in the beginning stages of putting together an MOU to understand, to have people kind of sign on to give their seed storage information or species information to this group. And we will be putting together kind of a master list that people will be able to use to exchange seed, hopefully in the near future. So if you are one of those people and we have not contacted you yet, please reach out to me or Dina Brewster. And we are starting on this, and it is going to be an exciting addition to the network. And I think that's it for me. Next slide.
Great. And as we are wrapping up the collecting part of the protocols, we're moving into phase 2, and Matthew Garambone is going to be leading this next part, and the focus will be seed increase protocols. And so if that's an area that you're interested in, taking this wild seed and then increasing the amounts of it and developing those protocols, we're still recruiting people to participate in the group. So we would love to have you, especially if that's, the area that you're really working in now, nurserymen or whatever, public gardeners who may be doing that. The group meets once a month. Currently, the next meeting is set for Wednesday, June 3rd at 10 p.m. or 10 a.m., excuse me. The intention is to keep that time unless the new cohort joins and it's decided that there's a better time. But tentatively, this is the set time for the meeting moving forward. So if you're interested, contact Eve or Lauren at EHN or put something in the chat. We'd love to hear from you and have you participate. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jordy and Heather, and to everybody that has participated in the wild seed collecting protocols. There was so many people that joined in to participate in the working group and also review. And if you go to our website, you can download the key messages and best practices for land trusts. You can see the acknowledgements page, and then just in a few weeks, we will release the wild seed collecting protocols. So stay tuned. We'll probably announce that in our newsletter to come. All right, next slide, please. Oh, I don't know why it's still showing some slides. Okay, we'll have to go through these. We've skipped these and deleted them, but they're still coming up. So if you want to just go to the end user research working group update. Yes. All right, I'm going to hand it over now to Jenica Allen to share about some end user research that we've been engaged in.
Thanks, Eve. Hi, everybody. Like Eve said, I'm Jenica Allen. I sit at UMass Amherst, and I've been helping to put together this research project, providing some research support to understand end users of native plant material in our region. And working with me on this project are Eve, Matt, who you've already heard from today, and a PhD student, Thomas Newfer. And so, next slide, please. Really, my aim here, you've heard a little bit about this research project in the past, and I know we still have a lot to come today. So I'm really aiming to provide highlights of the progress that we've made since the last update. But as a reminder, this was survey research that we completed to try to identify clear market patterns and market demand to sort of bridge that gap between suppliers and end users. And this project has been going on for a while because maybe not surprising to everybody on this call, but like we ended up getting a really wide diversity of responses. Like the patterns just really weren't that clear. And so it took us a while to actually make sense of that. But really, what has come out of all of our digging into the survey responses is that the Northeast seed market is really dominated by smaller scale buyers. It seems as though the government agencies and organizations working across multiple states, sorry, I forgot an S there, they tend to be the larger buyers, but there are a very large number of small scale buyers too. So there's sort of these like two different components of what's going on. There also seems to be some uneven demand geographically. It seems as though there's some localized pockets of demand and localized, like I'm going to put some heavy air quotes on that because it's a little unclear at this point how small geographically these pockets of higher demand are. But it's clear that it's not uniformly spread across this large geographic footprint that the Northeast Seed Network covers. And so really where this has led us is that the sub-hubs that have been started that are in like various stages of development really do fit the demand patterns that have emerged from this work. So that having these coordinated sub-regional markets really does seem like it's going to be one of the most sensible and efficient paths forward. Next slide, please. And you've seen these results before if you've been at one of these update calls in the past, but I think it's important to underscore that there's pretty dramatic potential for market growth for native plant materials in the Northeast. 88% of respondents expected their demand for native plant materials to increase in the next 10 years, and 90% were willing to pay some amount more for locally adapted or genetically appropriate seed. The challenge, though, is that there was a lot of variation in respondents' definitions of native and local. What that geographic span looks like was really kind of all over the place. And which sources or definitions that folks are using for native also was kind of all over the place. And so it seems as though having source identified seed will allow folks at organizations that have different definitions of native or have different definitions of local to be able to find the materials that match their definitions without the supply necessarily stamping its requirements on those definitions. Hopefully that how I just stated that makes sense. But having that source identified allows people to choose the things that work best for their projects in their organizations, however they define things. Next slide, please. And so remaining challenges and opportunities as we see them, there is still this like fragmented and difficult to predict demand. One of the biggest challenges that has emerged is that the planning timelines on average are very short, like 1 to 12 month planning timelines, which we all know doesn't align very well with longer supply timelines. And so I don't have a great answer for how to solve that challenge, but it was a very clear challenge that emerged. There are also these multiple definitions of common terms that I just spoke about. On the opportunity side, though, there are a huge number of small growers that were identified in this research. And so like the chart, I tried really hard not to like show you too many graphs, even though like that's the world where I live. I know not everybody enjoys looking at those. But this funnel plot on the right really is aiming to show you that there's a small number of suppliers that lots of people are using. That's at the top. But then there's this like really long, like skinny tail at the bottom that were maybe only identified by one or a couple respondents to the survey, but it adds up to 245 different unique suppliers that we identified. And so there's this huge opportunity for coordinating and supporting these smaller, more local producers to get networked up, to get connected to the demand that seems like it's already there and growing in the region. And then these shared standards can help to allow a larger or more diverse pool of buyers. If people feel confident knowing what they're getting and knowing how it was collected and how it was produced, it maybe opens the door for opportunities for these smaller growers if they've bought into those standards to have maybe some of the larger buyers or a larger number of the smaller buyers to purchase their product and support local economies that way. So I think that's all I have to share today. My hope is that the next time you hear about this manuscript will be like off in review somewhere, or we've gotten reviews back, and it'll be, you know, a 2-minute, yes, it's in progress, and eventually it's published. But this research is already filtering into some of the things you've heard about today, in terms of the directions that different subgroups and work within the network has gone. So thanks all. Happy to answer any questions in the chat too.
Thank you so much, Jenica, for that update. All right, so we're going to move now into the partnership and hub updates. I just want to remind everyone that this is going to be lightning fast, just 2 or 3 minutes maximum. And I'm going to hand it over first to Kelly Thompson to tell us, to tell us about the West Virginia partnership meeting that just happened.
Yeah, thanks, Eve. Do you need me to share my slides, or are you going, do you have my slides? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much. So yeah, I just wanted to give a really quick update on behalf of myself and Joe Kirsch, who couldn't make it here today. He's a fish and wildlife biologist out in the field today. But yeah, just a quick overview about the West Virginia Native Seed Network Partnership. It's a pretty new partnership that was formally just formed at our meeting, which I'll talk about in a second, last week. But these are the partners, you can see their logos here, that are already on board, and we're still networking to find some additional partners that might be interested in participating. Next slide, please. So what spurred the creation of the partnership was this realization in the region of an inadequate availability of native and genetically appropriate plants, similar, to other regions, and the nexus for forming partnerships. But really for West Virginia disaster rehabilitation and habitat restoration, mainly folks were using seed from, Texas or non-local regions. And so everyone really recognized this need. And then also the barriers. There's high cost for those local ecotype seeds, a long procurement timeline, And then overall, like a lack of coordination, and there needs to be some more education for end users and just generally in the community too. So in 2026, the Fish and Wildlife Service secured funding and entered into an agreement, or is entering into an agreement with the Canadian Valley Institute to start the Native Seed Network through this one project, which I'll talk about next. So we were awarded a little over $1 million, and we, as an Fish and Wildlife Service, through the U.S. Wildland Fire Service money. And we're, like I said, entering into a cooperative agreement with Canadian Valley Institute. The idea is that that money will fund a coordinator, a partnership coordinator, and then a team of 3 different field technicians to do some seed collection. And we'll talk about in a second. We're going to do a multi-phased approach as part of that project to allow for additional funding if we are able to procure it. But regardless, we'll move forward with phase 1. Next slide, please. So that phase 1 is going out and starting to scout populations. We're going to put together a seed list and then collecting from identified areas. And then from there, we've identified several locations for what we're calling safeguarded plant plots. And that's really just putting the wild collected seed out into these controlled and safeguarded sites that then seed could be collected from. And then those plants can keep producing and stay there and benefit the habitat is the idea while they're there. And then phase 2 will be production. So taking that seed that's collected from the safeguarded plant plots and working with private producers or nonprofits and cooperatives to increase that seed further. Okay, next slide. And we're hoping the development of this native plant seed network will provide regional benefits to all of the partners that are involved and then improve the quality of habitat restoration, especially in West Virginia. There's a lot of different ecoregions within West Virginia, and we've found, talking to partners, that seed is needed pretty much across the whole state. So this will be hopefully very beneficial for a lot of different partners. Next slide. Just wanted to mention some other ongoing relevant partnerships. There's already some planting tools through the West Virginia DEP. MarsB has a planting list or seed list too that we'll incorporate into our list that we're developing for the whole partnership. There's the Appalachian Reforestation Strategy. If you're interested, just let me know and I can connect you. I think they're doing a survey right now. And then, of course, the Mid-Atlantic Seed Partnership that's part of the Northeast Seed Network. Folks from the West Virginia Partnership will also be involved in that partnership. And I mean, just be functioning in both spheres. I think it's envisioned that the West Virginia Partnership will kind of be nested a little underneath the Mid-Atlantic Seed Partnership. All right, next slide. So yeah, we were formally created on our kickoff meeting, which was last week, really new. It was held at Appalachian Headwaters on May 14th, and there was a little over 28 people that attended the meeting from representing many of the partners that are involved in the partnership. Some folks couldn't make it, but attended online. And we're hoping to have another one soon. Next slide. So just to mention, we have some operating guidelines that we're kind of working through. Besides just creating a seed list right now, it's kind of like the first step, and starting to share resources. We're also in the process of developing some MOUs, and then kind of learning what all the guidelines are that we'll operate under. So state seed law, of course, knowing what's appropriate, where to use the wild collected seeds, and making sure that we're collecting ethically and legally. And then as part of the project, following a right of first refusal so that Fish and Wildlife and the partners will get first right at the seed. And then the hope is that it can benefit just generally the market in the area after that. All right, and we're going to meet again soon. I think we talked about a virtual meeting in July or so, maybe June, July, August, somewhere in there. So yeah, more to come. And I hope I did Joe Kirsch's slides justice. He couldn't be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. All right, moving right along, I'm going to hand it now to Rachel Martin from the Clifton Institute to tell us about the Mid-Atlantic Partnership.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I'm out in the field this morning, so apologies for any connectivity issues. But anyways, I just wanted to also acknowledge our co-partner who is unable to make it, but Phoebe Judge is doing great work out of Virginia Tech. And it's really great just being personally as someone that came onto the whole out of Institute, which is in Northern Virginia. And then, yeah, just it's been really incredible just to hear about all of the work that's being done with the Mid-Atlantic and just to speak deeply to Kelly's presentation. It was great to be there in person. And as you all can see, you know, we've got a lot of representation from Maryland and Virginia and also West Virginia, but it's really great to just be amongst some other folks in Delaware, New Jersey, and you know, these states listed. I just want to emphasize that anyone that has connection to the Atlantic participate in the partnership. And an exciting update briefly is that we were able to submit a symposia abstract to sort of formalize the Mid-Atlantic Partnership at next year's National Native Seed Conference. Thank you to Lisa, who I know is all to put together, and for other folks who just lended their insights about presenting. So fingers crossed. The other thing that we are continuing to work on right now is developing a collection production tracker, and is just helping to inform every partnership and reduce any overlap in terms of species collection and production, and hoping to just strengthen those propagation protocols and insights within the Mid-Atlantic. And the last update is that we are hoping to utilize the Plant Materials Center, which is based out in Beltsville, Maryland, as a seed shop that will also kind of serve as a Mid-Atlantic Partnership gathering to bring folks from around the partnership and just make a little bit more progress in terms of developing our charter, and just to sort of put names to faces and gather everyone together. Next slide, please. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And so that's really it. And Lisa, feel free if there's anything that I missed, please jump in. But I also just wanted to again emphasize the fact that for now, we've got so many folks that we'd like to incorporate from Delaware and Pennsylvania. And so I invite anyone who's interested to come to our next meeting, which will be on June 8th. And that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And I'll also share your email in the chat if anybody wants to get in touch about that June 8th meeting. All right, so moving now to the Mid-Atlantic Regional Seed Bank update. I'm going to hand it over to Amy.
Thanks, Eve. Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Kush with the Mid-Atlantic Regional Seed Bank, and I think that John and Michael, my two colleagues, will be jumping in after me with some other updates, but I just want to flag my email is akush@marsby.org. So if you have any questions about the online marketplace that I'll be describing in a minute, please reach out to me, and I can provide you with any links or information that you might be needing for that. Yeah, and just so impressed and grateful for all of the work that everyone in this network does. And I'm really excited to see if folks, you know, will benefit from our marketplace beta testing round. Next slide, please. So, real quick in this lightning round, I'm just going to give a very, very mini introduction, talk about the greater invitation, and provide some relevant links to the online marketplace, which is live for a beta round. Next slide, please. The marketplace itself it's a hub for connecting supply and demand through the mid-Atlantic. So basically, if your business, organization, or agency provides products or services in support of local native plant materials, if that's you, or if you are in the market for local native plant material and want your need for native species to be known, then our online marketplace is absolutely the appropriate place for you. In much, much greater detail, we have a beta testing packet link, which is live in the slides. And this is an entire process / program, which truly is only probably 30 minutes in its entirety to go through. We have some search exercises. We have a really nice setup guide for folks to walk you through setting up a profile in the account. So it's, a light lift. And then we also have all of the links to the marketplace. The marketplace does not have ironclad security, so it's not easily searchable, but it's not locked down in any way, shape, and form. So I just ask folks, if you are interested in beta testing, please, please come in. We really would appreciate your feedback after walking through the process of all of the little exercises that we have. But we're wanting to keep this slightly internal right now before we publicly launch this sometime in June. And so lastly, and probably really relevant, is we are holding a virtual office hours Tuesday, May 26th. And there is a link to register for that as well on this slide. If you want to go back into these Google slides, all of these links will take you to this information. And again, please reach out to me if you would like any support or have questions about the marketplace. We're really excited to open this up to everyone and facilitate really the mechanisms behind movement in the native plant material supply chain in the Mid-Atlantic. And Michael and John, if you have any other updates, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Amy. We're very excited about the online marketplace and beta testing and the full launch next month. I'd like to just piggyback off of what Rachel Martin just expressed. We will be holding a in-person seed increase and seed processing workshop in Beltsville, Maryland. So tentatively, don't have the date set, but thank you, Eve, as well for facilitating that and contributing. So.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Amy. That is just such exciting news. And I dropped those links in the chat as well, and we'll follow up with them in our newsletter. All right, next slide. Okay, Adam, if you want to hop on and share some updates from Local 59 Plant Network.
Sure. Hey, everybody. Adam here, Farm Director at Hilltop Hanover Farm, an environmental center in part of Westchester County Parks. So Local 59 Plant Network is focused on Westchester County, New York, just north of New York City, and Fairfield County, Connecticut. You can go to the next slide, Eve, or whoever has it. So I'm going to be quick. I just want to talk about our annual gathering. This is now our 4th year gathering professionals working in the field once a year to talk through needs, desires, things like that. So this was the program we did just this past March. First year is about 20 something of us gathered in the classroom at the farm that I work at. And we've been slowly growing. This year, some new changes. We moved to the Westchester County Center, which can hold up to 400 people in a space that we were given for free there. And what was really special about this is we combined the Local 59 Plant Network's efforts with the Lower Hudson chapter of PRISM, Partnership for Regional Invasive Species Management, with the idea being we are all definitely doing the same work together, and getting those two, camps with our different reach and different individuals really made a big difference. We ended up with 200 something people for this year's conference, which was amazing. You can go to the next slide. We threw together an agenda that I felt really proud of. We had, we had a lightning round at the beginning where we had, I don't know, probably about 10 organizations just talking through their work and who to get in touch with to get involved with different types of things, from water to soil to plant producing to restoration organizations. We had monitoring and update protocols. Many of the people on this call were involved in the planning of this conference. And then we also had breakout sessions in the afternoon. The one that's most relevant to this group is we had an amazing panel discussion. It's option number 4 on the right, Wild Collections, the origin story of our native plant supply panel. So we had many of the amazing individuals that are mostly in this meeting today talking about, the beginning of, a regional eco-type native plant supply chain. We can go to the next slide. And yeah, we're excited to have so many people. This was a free event. We had some wonderful sponsors who helped us provide lunch, but it was amazing. Lots of amazing connections. Personally, I can say we've made many amazing connections from this year's conference, and we're hoping to keep it going, keep it growing. Yeah, that's my update. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Adam. All right, we're going to go to the Seeds in Common program. Dina, if you want to hop on to share about this.
Sure. I am a little under the weather, so forgive my voice here, folks. But just wanted to announce a new program for the Ecotype project, which is in the Local 59 network, focusing right now on Westchester and Fairfield County. But the Seeds in Common program is really born out of the Northeast Seed Network value of sharing and transparency. Sometimes what that looks like is that if someone in the network has a really good idea, everyone can copy it. So this is built on a conversation with Emily Basin at the Wild Seed Project. They provide free seed for teachers. And in talking to her, Ecotype Project really wanted to replicate that down in Connecticut and New York State and Ecoregion 59 in Massachusetts. And so if you follow this link, or if you go onto the Ecotype Project website, we now can, with support of donors and partners, provide free starter packs of ecotypic seed for pollinator gardens, for teachers, and for also seed libraries that may need to restock with native plants. Excuse me. So we're kind of hoping that we can turn to the network now that we've launched this program for a couple of things. One is for everyone sort of, connected to the Northeast Seed Network to help us get the word out. Right now we're providing, the Ecotype Project is providing this program for seed that is donated or ecotypic seed for people in Ecoregion 59. And so if you know of teachers or seed libraries that want to participate, please help us get the word out and share this with your networks. Also, of course, we turn to the network for support. So if you know folks who would really, whether it's organizations or donors who would love to get behind a program like this, we can grow it with everybody's support. So we're looking for people to donate and make it possible. And lastly, we want to get the word out, we want to get support, and then we want to grow this program. We've kind of worked out the kinks and the details for how to take in free seed orders and push them out the door quickly. It's a largely volunteer-led program. But any of the other seed alliances on this call, if you have seed, or if you have teachers that you want to connect to free seed, etc., please contact us at Ecotype Project, because it would be very easy to just piggyback and provide this service to any of the other seed alliances on this call. So that's kind of my last ask, is if anybody wants to jump in or have us help replicate this for your region, it's now pretty simple to do it. So thanks for the time, Eve.
Thank you, Dina. Okay, we're going to move right along. We're running a little bit over time. Sorry about that. Going to hand it to Sue now for an update about reseeding Rhode Island.
Okay, thank you, Eve. Right at the moment, I'm feeling like RIPS is just this small, scrappy organization that dived into seed production back in 2022. We've been completely self-funded in terms of collecting our wild seed, growing it out, getting it into foundation plots. We have 23 species in some phase of production, and we're just so excited about being able to grow out our seed, get it to our plant sales, but also to have this selection of seed from the Northeast Seed Collective that we could also buy and grow out and get it to our shoppers. Um, we Our structure is that we have 10 locations at Land Trust, Audubon. We have a native plant wholesaler, organic farms, our own seed starters locations. And again, we've grown out these plants, provided them to our plot holders for free. And we're sharing seed with those that are interested. So RIPS basically took the leap with the thought that the net would appear, knowing that the economics of seed production were that this was a kind of a new burgeoning industry. And so one of our goals this year is to get the economics of seed production more clarified in our minds. The other thing that we are really looking to do is to hone our storytelling, our emotional appeal, and our science communication so that we can make people understand the value of the ecotype seed and the plants. I thought it was interesting that that Jenica mentioned that people are willing to pay more for these plants and the seed, but the question is how much more? And so hoping to clarify these issues as we move forward.
Thank you, Sue. All right, we're gonna move on. We're just running a little bit behind schedule, so thank you so much, everyone. I'm gonna hand it now to Kathy Nolan for a very quick update about the Catskills Native Plant and Seed Alliance.
Thank you very much, Eve. Yes, I'm Kathy Nolan. I work as the research director for Catskill Mountain Keeper in Livingston Manor in New York. And this is the first time I've actually signed into any meeting with my affiliation with the Catskills Native Seed and Plant Alliance. Really exciting to do that. And this whole meeting has just crystallized the entire process we've been through in the past year, 18 months. We received money from New York State through the New York Community Trust Fund to try to do in Ecoregion 58 what has been happening in Eco 59. The Ecotype Project and many of the other people on this call are our mentors on this. And we have been working through basically each of the processes that you have described in this meeting. I'm going to have to take the notes and use them for a grant write-up. And we're looking forward to getting all the materials you have that would formalize some of the processes. We've recruited farms. We have botanists who identified plants for us to grow. We have, Sephra's dropped it into the chat, created a web page with a lot of the educational materials and a summary of what we've been doing. I'll just say that we have 4 farms with seed increase plots or foundational plots for Turtlehead and Turtlehead and Swamp Milkweed in Ulster County at the White Feather Farm and Seed Song Farm. And in Sullivan County, we have Golden Alexanders and Monkey Flower at both the Sprouting Dreams Farm and the Beaver Kill Meadow Farm, along with Cardinal Flower at the Sprouting Dreams Farm. We are hoping to spread word about the Northeast Highlands, the 58, as well as further information about Ecoregion 59 and share with partners that are doing this work all across this region. There was a little gap in the regional map in terms of west of the Hudson River, and so we're hoping to fill that in with our efforts.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Great update. All right, I'm going to hand it now, I believe, over to Matt to tell us about Native Plant Trust Restoration Accelerator.
Eve, I'm going to jump in and give Matt a little break from speaking and provide an update for everyone. I wanted just to start by, as someone who has a long history with the network here, and just to say how incredible all of this progress is and the momentum that we have now. And I think that I'm just completely blown away by how much is getting done this year, especially. So, next slide, please. We are working in Massachusetts on three different scopes of work, as you can see here. First of all, with trying to build out our partnership through regional coordination, and this involves reaching out and speaking to as many different people that we can that are part of and touch upon the native plant seed supply chain. So that's state and local governments, nonprofits, private sectors. Conducting a lot of interviews right now to find out what people are doing, what they need, and how best we might be able to support access to locally adapted and source identified seed. In addition to that, we're also working on wild seed collection and nursery production and seed increase services for a lot of those here. And then lastly, we are offering some seed processing and seed storage services for growers as well. Next slide, please. We've been really fortunate to get a sort of combination of funding streams, both from private sources and some federal sources. We've got two active contracts that we're really working with now, which involve support for the partnership building and relationship building across the sort of greater Massachusetts region. We've also partnered with a grower in New Hampshire that is putting in seed increase plots, and partnered with them to provide all of the source material through wild collecting and seed banking. And excited to say that we're also working with the U.S. Forest Service in the White Mountains National Forest to work on some custom seed mixes and getting some seed collection and seed increase work done for their agencies up there. We have a few things that are in the pipeline here with Fish and Wildlife Service, and a really exciting opportunity that I can't quite say more about yet because we've just submitted a proposal, but involves both work with rare, threatened, and endangered works in Western Massachusetts, along with quite substantive custom seed mix and collection and seed increase work. So I'm really excited about what we have going and the potential for more. I think that's our last slide, and I'll just keep it nice and short. Oh yes, and then just for folks that are interested in the services, we've got great climate-controlled seed storage and seed processing as well. So putting that out there. So thank you. I'll keep us on schedule.
Thank you, Uli. Well, we are a little bit off schedule, so my apologies. I'm going to hand it now over to Brooke to tell us about our most northern hub.
Yeah, thanks, Eve. So I'm here just to give a quick little update on the Northern Appalachian Acadian Maritime Hub, the northernmost hub.
You want to drive over?
And I co-lead this hub with Claire Parsons at Coastal Maine Botanical Gardens and Emily Basin at Wild Seed Project. Next slide, please. So just giving a sense of what our geographic scope is, we're generally in Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and New Brunswick, and the ecoregions that are within those areas as well. We're not going for a for-profit. We're going more for like a service model, just trying to meet the demand because a lot of the organizations that work within our hub are nonprofits or are federal agencies and things like that. So But we do want to complement the other industry efforts that are happening around the Northeast Seed Network and not competing in any sort of way. So staying in connection with the other hubs and seeing what kind of work they have going on as well so that we can all support each other. And then serving all kinds of folks and users, we're still kind of working on identifying who those people are. But within our hub, we already have a lot of organizations that are kind of broad strokes through seed collectors, growers, and end users. So we're really excited about the trajectory of where we're headed with the folks who are already involved. Next slide. And we just had, just a couple weeks ago, a forum and training day at Coastal Maine Botanical Gardens. This was such a great day just because it was our first time all getting together in person since we established the hub last year. So this was a really great day just to get together and connect, as well as discuss a bunch of different training aspects so that we were all on the same page for when the seed collection season starts. So we went over our target taxon list that we developed last year that was finalized. We went over a lot of the collection protocols, similar to what Jordy was mentioning earlier, since Emily is on the collection protocols committee. We went over how to collect herbarium vouchers. We did seed cleaning demos and some plant material shipping best practices. So we really covered a lot and got to see, yeah, make sure we we're all sort of geared up and ready to go for this collection season. Next slide. And then next steps are really always welcoming new partners. Feel free to reach out to me directly if you're interested in getting involved in the hub. Still kind of developing what these best practices are in terms of sharing seed and shipping and sort of keeping track of what folks are focused on in terms of collection across the hub so that we're not, we're kind of balancing out who's focusing on which species and at what quantities and all of that sort of thing. Continuing to develop our communications planning. It's great to hear about the listserv development. That's very exciting. And hoping to host an additional hub event later at the end of the year to celebrate the end of the season. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brooke. So great to see what you all are up to. All right, well, with that, we're going to wrap this meeting up. Thanks everybody for still sticking with us. So a few upcoming events that I want to highlight. There's an exciting event coming up next week. The New York State Forest Expansion Network kickoff call. So this is hosted by the Nature Conservancy and a few other organizations, and it's really a virtual convening of professionals and community leaders involved in tree planting and forest expansion efforts across New York State. If you're interested, I can share more information and give you Mandy's contact to get in touch. You can also use that QR code to register for the event. Next slide, please. And then we also have some in-person network gathering meetings coming up this summer and fall. So Dina's going to be hosting a ginseng discussion at the Hickories Farm on June 25th. On July 9th at the Fen in Sharon, Connecticut, there's going to be a twilight talk about native seed production. And then we're going to have a few upcoming summer and fall in-person events planned with the Native Plant Trust and with Marsby and possibly some other network partners. So please stay tuned for those dates to be released. And then finally, in November, we have a cat skills gathering for Ecoregion 58 at Vassar College. And this is going to be kind of a first convening meeting to start maybe a new hub in that area. Or expand the Catskill Hub. Next slide, please. And then there's also the National Native Seed Conference that's coming up next year in Portland, Oregon. The Mid-Atlantic Partnership said that they just submitted a symposium. However, they're going to be accepting individual and poster abstract submissions until July 24th. It's a wonderful, wonderful conference for anyone interested in seed things. It's a really vibrant time, so definitely check it out if you might be interested. And then just want to, we're not going to have time for network Q&A, unfortunately, but we're always here if you have questions, so please get in touch. Just want to say a big thank you to our partners and our collaborators. We can't do this work without all of you, and we feel so blessed for all of the institutions, agencies, companies, individuals that are coming together to participate in this work. Next slide, please. And we're expanding our logo soup slides now to 2 pages. And thank you so much for joining us today. Please follow us on Instagram. We post regularly with updates. And if you haven't signed up for our newsletter, please do, because that gives a great opportunity also to stay in touch with things that are going on. And then please, our website, northeastseednetwork.org, has all of this information too, where you can sign up for our newsletter or visit our Instagram or see some of our resources, learn more about our partnerships and hubs. Again, thank you so much for spending your Monday morning in a very busy season with us, and have a great rest of your week.